Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Joe Turner. I'm the host of the new podcast coming soon called City Manager Unfiltered. City Manager Unfiltered is a podcast by a city manager for city managers because we need a place to talk about all those hot, juicy topics that you don't want to talk about in public on LinkedIn. But I'm your Huckleberry. I do not have a lunch date. I have a trailer. Not sure when I'm going to release that. Been recording some episodes. Not sure when I'm going to release those. But I'm trying to line up some special guests, and we're going to be rolling this out soon. In the meantime, I wanted to whet your appetite with a discussion about Pearland, Texas. What the hell is going on Pearland, Texas? I will tell you. Councilman Alex Kamkar decided to release information about city manager semifinalist candidates to the local police officers association. Yeah, and it's caused quite an uproar. It led to his vote of reprimand on a 6-0 vote this week by the city council in a very tense session. And we're going to take a look. Before we get to that, don't forget to check out my new podcast, City Manager Unfiltered. Now, without any further ado, let's check out the happenings in Pearland, Texas.
Mayor, I make a motion for a public reprimand of council member Alex Kamkar for the release of confidential information related to the city manager search to unauthorized third parties.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'd like to invite City Attorney Darren Coker to kind of lay out our own ethics policy.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, council members. The city's ethics ordinance contains a provision that does prohibit the disclosure of confidential information. And that would be confidential information, obviously, to third parties that the council receives, whether that be information in writing or whether that be just information that you receive through discussions in executive session, whatever that may be.
So, and I've done my best to make sure that we've redacted certain email addresses from this, from the public view. As you can see here, on the 23rd, an email was sent. The topic or the attachment was Pearland, Texas CM semifinalist book. So it was a 107-page document that was released to them. And you can see here, even the note down below, please advise of any landmines regarding police. And this was sent from a private email to private emails. So this was not on city server, city emails. And I don't know, what's meant by landmines, but typically landmines are hidden. Typically landmines are under, so you got to dig for them. So I'm not sure if that was meant to go and search or seek out information. Next slide. You'll see about 3.5 hours later, another member of our police department received an email with the same attachments. And this time at the bottom, you'll see Mr. Kamkar listed in the body of his email, did not come from me. So he knew at that point that this was not information.
Busted.
Go ahead and go to the next slide. So I'm going to show for the members of the public the first 3 slides. The first 3 slides in this book. That's the only thing I'm allowed to show you because everything after that starts getting into names and proprietary information. And you can see very upfront, very first page, confidential, red letters, all caps, underline. Next page. Confidential information, so it says it on the second page. All content proprietary information owned by SGR and any release of names or other information contained herein can reasonably be predicted to cause damage to the persons contained herein. And again, it's owned by SGR. As Mr. Coker had mentioned, any release of that would had to have been the whole body getting together to decide whether or not we could release something. Third page. Here's a letter to myself and council members, again, confidential and proprietary. Pleased to provide you with this confidential briefing book on the semifinalist candidates to become Pearland next city manager. Please recall that this information is still highly confidential.
All right, so now we're going to turn it up a notch, okay? Because the mayor has just laid out the case. It's quite clear that Alex Kamkar has violated the rules. He's divulged confidential information about city manager candidates, information that was gleaned in closed session and whatnot that never should have been divulged. And now he's going to put up a lame excuse, a lame defense and play the woe is me, everyone's coming after me card. It's quite clear that he was trying to do a favor for his political allies in the POA. Undoubtedly, they give him campaign contributions. I'm sure if I was to do some research on that, they are political contributors to his campaign. He was just up for election. Let's take a look at his defense before I poke holes in it, because it's terrible.
Mayor, I have the floor. Okay. All right. I appreciate all of these items. Feels very much like a witch hunt. That's all right. I'm happy to be chased around.
Call away ambulance.
But, I want to talk about the process, because we talk a lot about confidential, and there was anything but confidentiality in this entire process. Let me lay a couple of these
right, because you violated it.
So the Bella Vita forum that happened in March
on the 23rd,
we had candidates by name that individual who was not even in the candidate pool. By name. How does somebody know somebody who's not in the candidate pool by name? How does that tell 70, 80, 90 people in a public setting by name? If I recall, you were at that location at that time and heard that. How does that Mr. Have that information? Didn't come from me.
No, it didn't come from you, Kamkar. It came from Trent Epperson himself. It's everyone knew he was a candidate. It's like the worst kept secret in the world. In fact, we can go over to the Community Impact newspaper, and we see an article dated March 30th. Go down to the bottom. It says Epperson previously said he applied for the open role. The deadline was on the 19th. The candidate forum was on the 23rd. I'm pretty sure Epperson was probably going around telling people that he was a candidate. It wasn't a secret. So, not sure where you're getting at there, buddy.
So if the idea that the veil of confidentiality was pierced long before that. Let me read a second one.
Wait for it.
Forum, which was what? I want to say
on the 5th.
April, so another 30
on the 5th.
Forward.
Don't believe me? Let's check.
The person names you.
Oh. Pearland Commerce, April 5th. All right. Let's go here. Epperson previously said he applied for the open role. On the 30th. On the 4th at the latest.
Assistant city manager by name. Not by name. Says their role. How did they even know that they were
paper?
in the pool?
It didn't have to, bud.
For me. So the idea that there was confidentiality here.
You're right.
Complete nonsense. Let me tell you something as we go into further into April. I had a gentleman, we recently had a campaign election's over now, who I had never met, who's 90 plus years old, doesn't drive, doesn't text, has a caretaker. That person by name mentioned Mr. Epperson as somebody that I needed to support for the city manager.
Maybe the 95-year-old knows how to read, has internet connection, caretaker reads the paper to him. I don't know. It wasn't top secret. Okay.
How does that individual know he's even in the applicant pool? The idea that there's any confidentiality in this process is absolute nonsense. The process.
Oh, my Lord. Yes. Yeah. So what happens here is that Kamkar apparently thinks that because Epperson outed himself as a candidate, that basically confidentiality rules do not apply to anybody else. I don't know if he's really that dumb or if he's just playing games and trying to deflect, because he's making the most absurd, nonsensical argument I've ever heard. Okay. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Alex Kamkar, council member, Pearland, Texas, exposed by the mayor's receipts and by my little video here, poking holes in his arguments that were absolutely absurd, indefensible. He should be ashamed of himself and embarrassed for outing candidates. It puts them at serious risk and harm in their profession and with their current employer, and it should not be tolerated. So thank you to the council for voting 6-0 to reprimand him. Of course, there's really no meaningful substantive impact on Kamkar, but there you have it. So I'm Joe Turner, host of the new podcast coming soon, City Manager Unfiltered. Don't forget to check it out. and see you next time.